It is 250 years after the New World was discovered by Columbus. From its coastal towns and cities, from Europe across the ocean, England's colonists are pushing into the heart of the American continent, cutting their way through forests, clearing ground, building log houses, raising stockades and forts, spreading their roots in the new land of promise. The pioneers keep coming, moving forward in a westward migration that begins in far-off Europe. Men and women of many faiths and many countries are joined in a common adventure for freedom and security. Out of their rich and varied qualities, the continent that lies before them will forge a character, the character of a new people, the character of a new country they are making in the wilderness.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Accepting the award for Marlon Brando and The Godfather, Miss Shasheen Littlefeather.
Hello, my name is Shasheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache, and I'm president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you in a very long speech, which I cannot share with you presently because of time, but I will be glad to share with the press afterwards, that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry and on television in movie reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. I beg at this time that I have not intruded upon this evening, and that we will, in the future, our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
What triggered that?
I read a book called Indians of the Americas, and I, after reading the book, realized that I knew nothing about the American Indian, and that everything that we are taught about the American Indian is wrong. It's inaccurate, and our school books are hopelessly lacking, perhaps criminally lacking, in revealing what our relationship was with the Indian. When we hear, as we've heard throughout all our lives, no matter how old we are, that we are a country that stands for freedom, for rightness, for justice, for everyone. I think it's important to mention that there have been nearly 400 treaties written by the United States in good faith with the Indians, and every single one of them was abrogated. Means broken or changed or altered. And we were the most rapacious, aggressive, destructive, torturing, monstrous people who swept from one coast to the other, murdering. And that isn't revealed because we don't like that image of ourselves. We don't like to see us. We like to see ourselves as perhaps John Wayne sees us.
Man doesn't forget easily when his wife and kids were butchered.
Cheyenne, wasn't it?
Cheyenne, Apache, Blackfoot Sioux. They're vicious killers, all of them. They ain't even human.
Also, what we've learned about the Indians has been largely taught to us by Hollywood and by motion pictures. They have educated us. So we naturally believe that when the Indians came, that the wagons circled and the Indians rode around and subjected themselves to terrible fire and died at a ratio of 65 to 1.
Both barrels of a shotgun would always get 2 Indians.
Yeah, and that wasn't the way it was at all. But anyway, Indians have been tragically misrepresented in films and in our history books, in our attitudes, in our reporting. And so we must set about to re-educate ourselves.
Indians run their dot-gum, dot-blasted sheep over our land just like they owned it.
Why don't they stay on the reservation where they belong?
Reservation life started 1870. In 1884, the Secretary of Interior had come out with a so-called Secretary's order detribalizing Indian people and making them into white men as soon as possible. Unilateral assimilation process. One of the first things they want to do is establish a school, a boarding school. And the boarding school was set up there about 1890, I think. In Crow Agency, boys' dormitory, girls' dormitory, and dining room and classrooms, other facilities right at Crow Agency.
150,000 children were taken away from their homes and put in residential schools across Canada.
Canada really wasn't much better than the rest of the world in terms of our treatment of Indigenous people.
Over 500,000 children experienced life in an orphanage, foster home or institution during the last century in Australia. 50,000 were Aboriginal, the stolen generation.
Unfortunately, the United States government did not think too highly of the Spokane language or any other native language for that matter. Many of these children were ripped from their homes against their will and were taken to boarding schools.
Every once in a while they go out throughout the country and look for kids, age 5, and just take them away from their parents and take them to the boarding school. And there where they become like slaves. Gee, they were mistreated, some killed there.
Many of them were beaten for speaking their languages or for practicing their cultures.
In these residential schools between the years of 1874 to 1996, children suffered emotional abuse, neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and spiritual abuse.
Child sexual abuse is epidemic on Indian reservations, and all you hear are whispers. This abuse can be directly attributable to the schools on the reservations. Education in the BIA, public, the contract, and missionary schools do not teach positive values from non-Indian culture, and in collusion with the BIA, certainly do not allow Indian culture and values to be taught.
How did I, a bright, engaged student who is involved politically, get to 29 years old and never hear about what a residential school is? How did I not know? I was outraged at the social injustices that had happened in Canada in my generation. While I was in high school, other people were also in high school in residential schools.
Now, the survivors of Native residential schools are preparing to share their heartbreak and their stories of abuse. The hurt inflicted on these young people decades ago is still felt today.
His actions of sex abuse went on for the duration of the school year, and he made nightly visits to me, but my brother would not cooperate. Instead, he ran to the window and he jumped out of it.
I was mistreated in every way. As a young girl, she was 7-year-old. She was pregnant. And what they did, she had her baby. They took the baby, wrapped it up in a nice pink outfit, took it downstairs. I was in the kitchen with the nun who were cooking supper. They took the baby into the furnace room. They threw that little baby in there and burnt it alive. All you could hear was, that was it. And you could smell, the flesh cooking. It's a big mistake when people say we were treated good. No way.
He said that we were really bad and we were born of the devil. And if we told anybody what he was doing, they wouldn't believe us anyway. And that's so true, because when he did, I think he had penetrated me that time. And I was bleeding and I was sore. And I went and I told the nurse. And she asked me what happened, so I told her. And she gave me a strapping, a real good strapping. And she told me, don't you ever speak about him like that again. She said, he would never do anything like that to you. So there I was again, getting another licking. And like now when I think about all the things that happened, I said, you're damned if you did and damned if you didn't, no matter which way you got a licking.
I remember when we had to shower. You only have to show me how to shower and clean and wash myself, how to wash my private and my, private parts of your body. You don't have to show a kid once or twice at the most, but not every day. And have the supervisor come in there and basically take advantage of you,
I didn't know any other language, so whenever I talk, it came out. Cree would come out, and whenever I talk, I get hit. I got hit so much I lost my tongue. I lost my native tongue.
I got strapped. I got beaten up for speaking my own native tongue. I even had my tongue pulled out and pinched.
My strongest memory there is when the little girl died beside me. She must have been about 6.
Residential schools were a frontal attack on parenthood.
Generally, the survivors of residential school do not commit suicide any more than the general population. Okay. It's the children of the residential school survivors who commit suicide in incredibly high numbers.
We had real tough luck, and I felt so bad because I couldn't get to all the funerals.
Not everybody knows about this, and not everyone is aware of the impacts, and that's disturbing.
It might just take one person to start talking about it, or perhaps a family to start talking about the fact that there is abuse, and the reason why there's that abuse is because of the residential school experience.
We hope that we can create some cultural safety, foster reconciliation, ignite social justice, and promote healing.
We're not abusive people by trade. We weren't born that way. And to be able to, I think families need to be able to realize that they're not alone, that none of us are alone anymore, that we have each other, and that it's okay to start talking about it.
And when you hear the stories of the survivors, it makes it very real. It's different about learning this in the context of a textbook and then hearing the words out of someone's mouth.